What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Metal Maniacs Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ingersoll, and I'm here, as always, with my co-hosts.
It's your boy Mod. What's good, Jay?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey yo. How's the sugar kick going?
It's good, man.
You done?
What do you mean, am I done?
Zero sugar? Still
I
done
mean,
with sugar?
you're going to get incidental sugars. I mean, there's sugar in ketchup, but
Yeah.
it's all right.
As long as you're not drinking the ketchup.
Yeah, it's all right, man. I can do it because I do some artificial sweeteners and stuff like that. Unfortunately, those are known to still raise your glucose level a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like, the whole point is, like, keeping your glucose level, like, steady throughout the day so you're not doing these peaks and valleys,
Right.
But I've done it before for quite a long time, so it's fine.
I tried to keep an eye on my sugar. I'm in this nutritional cooking class right now, and I thought I'd be cute and substitute something for Coca-Cola. Let's just get something, I'll do club soda and syrup in it, right? So I'm making these drinks, and I'm like, wow, how come I didn't know about club sodas before? I could just make my own. I spin the bottle around and take a look at the sugar content on the syrup, and I'm immediately way past Coca-Cola. I'm like, this was a fun idea. This is a great exercise in ignorance. I had like 3 of these things back to back to back. I'm chugging them down, and then I flip the bottle around and look at it. I'm like, oh, let's do the math here. And I'm at like 300% sugar for the day. The diabetes is in the mail. Like, it can't get here fast enough. Yeah. But kicking sugar would be a bitch for me. So more power to you, sir.
It is a bitch, but I just want to be healthy, man.
Good
I want
for
to live
you.
a long life, and I don't want that inflammation in my body. So.
Yeah, and I know you've got some health concern there besides just kicking sugar. There's a reason for it.
So, with all that being said,
cheers.
So I want to welcome our guest today, Jeff Brinn. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
I'm nice and warm this week.
Good.
Not snowed out from last week.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, we had to reschedule this because we had the great blizzard of 2024, the one that lasts a week here in Michigan. So
Yeah, it's called winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called winter.
Pretty much. Yeah. And it's always like 1 week, and then after that, the roads are clear for the rest of the winter until spring. So that's usually how it goes.
Is that called global warming?
I have to ask Al Gore that.
I'll ask Gojira that.
Right.
They know all about it.
They're a little knowledgeable on that stuff.
So a little bit about Jeff. I've known Jeff. You came through here before when I was upstairs with the studio and my basement had flooded. You had a rapper or something that you knew, and we were going to try to do a little bit of work or whatever. So I met you then, and you had a podcast called the Ultra Michigan Podcast, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So Jeff is actually a photographer, and I mean, has had photographed some of the almost every band you could probably think of. So we're here today. You got a show coming up, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? That's coming up soon. So
out show March.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that, and then that's why we're here, because Jeff specializes in photographing bands. So if you're a photographer, a budding photographer out there that wants to get into like band photography and know the ropes of that, that's kind of why Jeff is a good fit to come on the Metal Maniacs. Plus, I know Jeff knows a lot about metal and is well versed in that too. So we'll talk a little bit about all those things today and go from there. What's up, Nick? Did you have something to say? Or
If I did, I lost it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna let you continue with that.
Okay.
Something came and went. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So tell us a little bit about how you got into photography. I mean, just right from the beginning. What made you like pick that as your thing?
I, as a young kid, was a skateboarder. Many years. I got into a lot of music through skateboarding. I grew up in a hippie household. Originally, music was introduced from day one that I can remember. A lot of stuff from the Doors, Crosby, Stills and Nash, you name it. It was kind of more the California rock. There was a little Frank Zappa in the house, things like that. But I guess I grew up kind of I'd say a counterculture kid.
Okay.
To an extent, and it was in Detroit. And I remember the day my father came in my bedroom and he grabbed my Kiss records. And it's not your cliche thing where I'm taking these because they're evil. He just said, I'm taking these for a week because this is a gimmick. You need to hear some real music. Gave me Led Zeppelin 1, Crazy World of Arthur Brown, Iron Butterfly, and a couple others.
So you were raised right.
Yeah.
But
all dads, please take Kiss albums away from your
that was a
kids.
very pinnacle changing point that I didn't realize at the time that broadened me to a lot of different music. But the first time I heard Crazy World of Arthur Brown, I Am the God of Hell, Fire, and I Bring You Fire. Changed me a little bit.
Oh,
And after that, it was Black Sabbath 1, obviously, with many people that introduced them to metal. Well, skateboarding, growing up in Michigan, I mean, you're pretty limited on your input on what's cool when it comes to, like, I guess, California sports at the time. You might see it on ABC Sports, but I started getting Thrasher magazine. Got into punk rock at the same time because that magazine kind of pushed that to that whole aggro edge. But I always grew up liking metal and rock. But there's something about the pictures that grabbed my attention in those magazines. Started taking pictures of my friends skateboarding, which still kind of, now that I think back, gave you the same vibe. You have to be very close. You're in their face. It's aggressive, of the kind of music I liked. So we started going to punk rock concerts. And my dad had gotten me a camera. I don't remember about what year, but my friend and I would go see, and we would just hand the camera back and forth, get the roll of film, and not really even remember who took what picture. But we went to Black Flag, probably about 85 in Grand Rapids. And when I got that roll of film, that kind of changed everything on me. I got the fever of wanting to do that. And punk rock's really easy to do that in, I guess, compared to other major music, because there's not a lot of the rules and guidelines. There's barely laws. I mean, you can drink underage. Like, the places we were going to were pretty lowbrow.
Yeah.
Right.
Punk rock clubs. Yeah.
You could bring your camera, walk right in. People didn't invite it as much as they do now with social media. So you were a little more reluctant to just start clicking unless you're with your friends. But capturing bands that you liked, that you read about, and then you had images that you kept after, there was something about that stuck with me. So I just progressed with that. And that's kind of what got me hooked into it.
So you were doing this at a very early age then. So you just kind of knew that was something that you liked.
I was doing it more as a hobby. And then my friend and I started making a fanzine.
Okay.
That was strictly related to, I guess, what you would categorize extreme metal. It didn't really have a title. I guess the title then was just thrash metal. And everybody was thrown kind of into that mix. If you had dark undertones, whatever. They didn't have names like black metal. That came a little later.
Yeah.
And I just really liked that stuff. So we started making fanzines. And now that I think back on it, it's kind of funny how approachable the bands you liked, but you had to write letters. You didn't have email. You had phone call interviews, hoping they'd answer. But to get that package was a big deal. They'd send you little pictures that you'd print, you'd Xerox. And I just kind of got the fever from that. And the whole industry part of having fun doing that. You get to meet the bands that you liked. And at the time, they were approachable, like Corrosion of Conformity, DRI. Okay. Even bands like, if you wanted to see, like an Anthrax would have been to that next level then. But they were still approachable if you knew how to get through the connections.
Yeah. And back then, like you said, it's not like everybody has a camera on their phone like they do now. So if you're standing in the crowd with a camera, you're the guy that has the camera. Maybe another guy there that had the same passion as you, but yeah, I'm sure that looked a little different.
Because, and I'm sure people know that from seeing old photos now of the Ramones and Black Flag to old Judas Priest. I mean, a lot of my big influence comes from European photographers that I didn't really realize till I was older, and a professional guy says, you shoot like the Euro guys. I didn't know what he meant till he explained that in America, everybody likes really tight frame shots of faces, more model shots, 3/4. He goes, Europeans like to give you the effect that you're at the show, where you can see the pedals, the sweat flying in the air, the 3 feet from you. And that's always what I've tried to get across in my photography, is I want you to feel like you're crushed against the barricade. You can see all the wires, the pedals, you can see what's going on more. And it doesn't, and I hate anybody that poses for you. Which, in punk rock, you didn't have that. That was so anti.
Yeah.
So you captured real emotion. I'm sure I never really shot too many 80s bands that were kind of the hair metal scene, but that's where everything changed, where people were more content on what they looked like instead of the music.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously. And black metal and all the metal still kind of kept that ethic of still trying to be real.
Yeah.
And that's what I appealed to as a photographer. I like capturing something real. I don't like anything that's contrived.
Yeah, it sounds like as you're telling your story, Jeff, the word that keeps coming to my mind is visceral. Like you just saw it and you were trying to capture it in its essence, and it was, like you were trying to convey that reality of that moment to everybody going forward. Like you need to be here to see this, what I'm capturing for you. It's even better live now. And I think that's when you're telling your story, that's what it sounds like, is you were just capturing this raw live energy.
I've never understood why I never really liked doing video until about the last couple of years, and I realized that with video, it almost shows too much that takes away the mystique of your imagination.
Yeah,
All right.
that makes sense.
And that's where I think in rock and roll, and I don't think the rock star exists anymore because of cell phones.
Okay.
I mean, back when we were young, you barely knew anything about somebody. Now you know what they had for breakfast because of their Instagram.
Yeah.
It took away all the mystique of what you built up. The energy when you went to go see a show and you didn't even know barely. Like, I remember my father telling me, and this would have been great if you were a photographer back when he went to see Led Zeppelin. He didn't even know what they looked like because they just had a cover that was a Zeppelin crashing, a black and white blurry photo, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
A couple articles you might have read of some hype. So it was like an event when you went.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about being a photographer, is capturing that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now it's very difficult to do because everybody has their phones out. Everybody's capturing something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taken away a lot of that.
Yeah, we seen that at the If He Dies show because I was capturing it on video and I used some of your video, which was really good video. But in the video, you see 35 people videoing it as well. And the cameras on the phones are freaking superb too. So that footage is great,
Yep.
So it's weird because we're in this social media age and it's almost like you have to show people what you've had for breakfast in order to get your band out there now. Whereas before everything was more streamlined. You just had to be a good band to get signed. We were talking a little bit before the show about the Metal Maniacs and knowing those bands in there. Well, those bands were so good that they got signed, then they got the media attention, where now media attention is all what you're putting out there,
Yeah, it precludes your talent.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you look good, so people are going to come out and see your bands, you dress right, so people are going to immediately gravitate towards you. Everything comes before the music now, which kind of sucks.
I saw something last night that I rewatched that really kind of, because I was going to be on this, I wanted to get a little bit back in the mode of metal music, and I went to just the most mainstream one now, Metallica.
Still.
And I watched Some Kind of Monster.
Okay.
And it reminded me how much major metal's dead on how they present. I don't know if that band, like, to actually watch people feel like they have to work to make a record,
right,
didn't seem like music to me.
Right.
It seemed like a business
Mm-hmm.
that they feel pressured, that they have a lot of other people depending on them.
Mm-hmm.
And the music industry right now, it's just fucked it all up for kids. It really has. And some kids have no clue what it was like to go see shows, not knowing what about a band, the excitement build up, sitting there in front waiting to see them walk out. Now you watched the show from last night on YouTube.
Yeah, know the whole set list and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's goes back to that magazine because say we went to go see Pantera multiple times.
Yep.
But the only time we ever got to see anything about Pantera is maybe if they came out with that home video that we got to snatch. And that's why we loved that thing, because that was a glimpse into their life. But it only came out once every 4 years.
Yeah.
And then maybe a article or two on Pantera when they're coming out with a record. And so you were always looking to get that next magazine or that next article that had your favorite people, your favorite artist on it.
There's not enough people that give them credit for being the original Jackass, making those videos.
Yeah.
Pre-Jackass.
Yeah. Now everybody's a jackass just to get the views.
Yeah.
Throwing shit at people in Walmart and all that just to get views. It's like.
But
I got to say, that's one of the last bands when it was a full band that still was approachable, even at their highest level.
Oh, yeah.
They'd come out, sign stuff.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they would hang out and they'd buy shots for kids. They gave you an experience that when you left, you didn't just saw your concert. You got to hang out with the dude that was actually nice, that didn't act like he was doing you a favor.
Right. No, the history of Diamond Vin, the documented quotes from others about them and their personality, I think is a testament to how real they were, how approachable they were. And I think the better part of the band is now 6 feet below, because the other two guys, whatever. I like Rex, I like Phil, it's fine, but I think Pantera is and always was Diamond Vin. and they were the approachable ones. They were the heart and soul of Pantera, and
I got my best
we missed them.
ever compliment from Mr. Dimebag Darrell about my photography.
Let's hear it, Jeff.
To me, just at the time, just really stuck in my head as being somebody true too and real and appreciative. It's a funny story. My friend and I went to see, I don't remember the name of the tour, but it was Pantera, Morbid Angel, Static X,
Scrape,
Slayer.
Yeah. Slayer closed it.
Yeah.
They're at the Van Dandel. That was the whole tour. Yep.
Well, my friend and I had made, and Soulfly was on it. That's what I remember because my buddy had kind of hooked them up with some drugs, and I already had a photo pass, and I was not really a big Pantera fan at the time. I missed the boat, I guess. I was too punk rock, and they just seemed too metal for me. Like, at the time, I was not into that kind of music.
Yeah.
But I got some really cool pictures of them might have been that show. And we went to the following show because I asked, hey, you want to come again? The guys in Soulfly want some more fucking drugs. So we went to Chicago. I had a photo pass for the night before, but I didn't have press credentials because you have to go through some motions ahead of time to get that. But I brought my camera, and I brought some pictures that I hurried up and got blown up a dime bag. And we got backstage in the hallways, and we saw his tour manager, Wookie, who was big. I mean, he's called Wookie because he's over 6 foot, big dude. Those guys were all pretty big guys that worked with them. And he walked by, and he looked at me and said, hey, how you doing? Kept walking by. He's like, hey, what you need? And I told him I got some pictures. He's like, oh, you want to talk to the guys? Hold on, I'll be back. Kept walking past me, so I started feeling like a little fanboy. And I don't really like that feeling. I don't like feeding egos. And just about ready to walk away with my friend, and he kind of boogied down the hall and said, hey, come here. I didn't forget about you. Follow me. I went into the production office. I had these 8x10s, and I set them down on the desk, and Dime was in there with a little mini guitar amp playing. They had the laptop or computer going, and I set him down, and he instantly looked over, smiled, and said, oh, man, you want some autographs? And I said, no, I don't want autographs. These are for you. I just thought I'd give them to you. And he's like, wow. And he was looking at him, and he's like, hey, Wookie, don't these look like the ones in House of Blues? And he's like, yeah. He goes, these are badass, motherfucker. And he's like, are you shooting tonight? And I said, no, I didn't get a pass. He's like, Wookie, he's shooting me tonight.
Nice.
And all night he would come up and just right in your face. And like something about their air and their aura that you just don't find as a photographer anymore. He'd have to be really deep inside a camp to be welcome like that.
Yeah,
and just told that and treated like a human, not treated like you want something from them.
Right.
I don't find that very much in music anymore at that level.
Well,
Right.
I think the social media thing goes both ways, though, because if you already have fans before your band is even great, then maybe you're not as appreciative of your fans, right? Because those guys knew that everybody out in the audience was there and put effort to be there with the minimal amount of things that they put out, whether it be a record or an article or a home video, right?
Right.
Instead of just knowing that they have the capability to get fans all over the world easily with the internet, you know. So
Well, I
it's
think
like
they built
there's
their career
appreciation there, you know.
I think they built their career unknowingly by being who they were.
Yeah.
And just being human beings and nice and appreciative to kids and communicating with kids, press, photographers, everybody. They've always been I've never heard a bad story from any photographer that I know about their experience with them.
Right.
Whereas a lot of acts at that level, your time gets pushed. You're told a half hour, it becomes 10 minutes. Somebody's cell phone rings and leaves the room. Then the band shoot's done because the other guys aren't going to wait around and wait for the other guy on the phone. Just a lot of disrespect where I think people think they've already done all their work when they hit their social media.
Right.
I think that on local bands too, you know, they'd rather compile a bunch of free photography from everybody that was there off their phones, put it up, leave it, stick out their date they're playing next week, maybe copy and paste it a couple times, and then complain that there wasn't anybody to come see my show.
Right.
Whereas when we were younger, you handed out flyers, you were you worked it.
Yeah.
I don't
You were
see-
building those
I don't-
one-on-one relationships.
I think you're
like,
spending more time worrying about something that you need to get in people's face, like face to face more. I think that would help.
I think people also, they just dive into the idea of being popular. The look at me aspect of it. Look at me, I'm in a band.
I can't imagine being in a band now and having to be concerned about every day checking your likes, how many views. I mean, it's a different business. It's just a whole different breed.
No,
where
it's like, you know,
it
being
becomes redundant and takes out the fun.
yeah,
seems
it's
like.
it's behind the curtain stuff, you know, like the man behind the curtain, pay no mind to them. There's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, right? Like you say, checking messages, checking the algorithm, checking the likes,
Like I can't see
engaging.
Kerry King of Slayer. When I was a kid, I can't imagine him sitting down at a laptop and worrying about how many likes he got.
No,
I just can't fathom it. But now it's kind of the norm. Like the newer generation's grown up that's what you need to do.
Again, it's one of those things where it's like you have to do it because you love to do it, and all of that stuff will come by the wayside. It's the same thing with this podcast. We're doing it because we love to do it. If we get some likes and, you know, that makes us feel good because a lot of work goes into this podcast.
absolutely.
A lot of getting guests, editing, all this money spent on all this equipment sitting in this room, our research. So that helps a little bit, but we do it because we want to talk about metal and kind of keep that magazine alive and keep
passion.
extreme metal alive, you know?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with being in a band. You should just rock, and if people like it, they'll like it. Mott always says he hates throwing stuff in people's face, but we kind of live in that world now where it's you have to at least put it out there to promote, just because we're in this, like, it's like one of a TV screen that has all this static on it, right? You're just one of those little blips in there, and somehow you have to stick out in all of that to share what you're trying to do, you know? But at the end of the day, if you do it because you love it, I think all that shit will come around, you know?
That's kind of with photography, and that's what I would tell any kid. I mean, you need to forget about all the other static.
Yeah.
And if it really makes you feel good, and when you get back home and you get that picture and you're in your computer now and you're processing it and you sit back and feel proud, the next day you look at it, then that's called creative art.
Yeah.
And you got something out of it, and just be happy with that.
Yeah.
Don't expect too much nowadays, I guess, if you're trying to be a career photographer in music or entertainment, because it's very difficult and there's a lot of disappointments.
Mhm.
And for me, I love music so much that it just discouraged me to not really attack the business side of it.
Amen that.
I tried to just get enough people that would be able to let me use them to get the credential, donate the photography to them, or get paid a very minimal fee to still do what I love to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of all I get out of it now.
And it sounds like you're not reaching for any external validation when you tell it to me, Jeff. You're
You're gonna
doing
get disappointed a lot. Put it that way.
Yeah.
If you really like bands and you're trying to go work with, say, the newest cool band, and say you worked with them briefly or you met them, a lot of times life's too quick right now, and they're too busy, and they're on to the next thing, and they're not going to remember you unless you keep showing up.
Right.
It's going to cost you a lot of money, a lot of gas money, dinners, all that shit, just to go do what you like to do.
Right.
If it's worth it to you, and you don't have these huge expectations,
Right.
go for it.
Yeah. For me, and I don't know, it sounds similar to me. Like, I just want to hang out with the dudes, get to know them a little bit. That might be a bad idea. You know, never meet your heroes.
Sometimes.
But if they make the time, if they're cool, you know, even if they're not cool, I'd at least say I got to meet them and have a story to tell. But that's kind of the idea here. And what Jason and I talked about is, you know, get the pass and talk to some of the people that you have looked up to, whose music has impacted your life and means a lot to you.
That's one of the points I was trying to get across with the whole going to concerts and pictures and things. Is kids, to me, I feel bad. Like if I'm in like say I'm at Slipknot and you're right up front, you get 3 songs to shoot. Right behind you is the barricade with, say, 600 kids crammed against it. I don't see it with certain acts, but most bands you do, and definitely pop music. If I turn around, it's not out of jealousy or any of that. All I see is a sea of phones. So you're not really capturing a memory that you're a feeling
Right.
that I remember, like going to see Ozzy when I was 15. I can't imagine being distracted half the time trying to pay attention if I'm capturing something. Then I'm not going to go look at it again, probably. I'm going to put it on there to show you where I was.
Right.
And you're not taking an experience that you can take with you the whole rest of your life as much. You're not sucking it all in.
Right.
I don't think kids know how to because they've been never brought up to do that. They've been having like the average 17, 18-year-old kid at a concert, they've had a phone their whole life.
Yeah.
So they don't know any different.
Yeah.
Right. Try it. Try go to a show sometime and leave your phone in the car. Put it in airplane mode. Don't even just leave it in the car because you can still take pictures in
I dig the
airplane mode.
comedian scene and how they're making people put their phones in bags.
Yeah.
I understand that and the purpose of it is because they're still working material.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
But I guarantee once somebody bitches when they come in, when they leave, they'll think about it. They'll have this. It'll be in their memory bank. They'll remember everything. Eye contact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine being a comedian if you had to go look out at phones trying to tell jokes and look at people, because you communicate with your eyes, your emotions.
See, I'm mindful of that when I go to shows. I will take a few pictures or a little bit of video just to remember it for myself. But most of the time, I am very mindful of, I'm not here to shoot this show. I don't want to capture this whole show on my phone. I want to relive that in my mind, and I want to experience the band as they're on stage. I don't want to have to look through my phone watching them. That's just not what I like to do.
So, yeah, I'm like Jay. I got to pull the phone out for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that growing up. So that, for Jason and I, that is new. We weren't born with cell phones in our hands. You know, we went to the shows. We stood there without phones and cameras, and we watched. Now I get to a point where I'm sitting there watching Anthrax for maybe the first time in my life. I think it was 20 minutes in a row. Well, that was the second time. But I knew they were coming out with I Am the Law. Like, I knew that song was in the set. I knew to listen for it. And so when it came on, and I just knew, all right, they're doing it right now, I got my elbows square on my knees, and I held my camera perfectly framed just for that song only. And I just sat there, and I didn't even look at the screen on my phone. I'm just holding it. And I'm watching with my own two eyes above so I'm not looking through the screen. I'm just watching them. And then it was done. I stop it, and I put it in my phone. And my phone's got really good audio quality on it, too. And I just upload it to my computer, and I shared it on the social media. And every year, it reminds me, hey, remember back in 2017 when you saw Anthrax? And I'm like, fucking A, I do.
That was such an awesome show.
And then I just play that video like once a year because it had great audio on it. But to your point, though, kids are just living through that screen. And they think they're capturing the memory.
Well, give this some thought. You went to Anthrax. Okay, Scott Ian playing guitar. He's been around a long time.
Long time.
They've
almost
been playing
60.
since, what, 83, 84,
Absolutely.
something like that?
Yep.
I would like to ask somebody like that. I've had the opportunity. I haven't really. I just thought about this, but they went through a transition period of where you played to the fan, and now they're playing to the phones.
Mm.
And I wonder how they have absorbed and had to deal with that. Whereas your newer acts, like say a Bring Me the Horizon or something, they don't know any different.
Right.
They've only been brought up with 500 phones in the air.
Right.
So their performance, I wonder if it changed. Like in Scott Ian, if it made them have to play different, like live, like the way they present themselves or how they interact.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be annoying if you've never, like, I can't imagine Steven Tyler's a great example, Aerosmith. 70s, 80s, 90s, you're playing, you're looking at girls, you're making connections, you're doing all this, and all of a sudden something shifts to where when you go to put your face out to sing to the crowd, all of a sudden there's 8 phones shoved at you. And it takes away, like, it's got to screw with them and what they're trying to put across.
Well, you're definitely under a microscope more because
Yeah.
you don't want to fuck up because everybody's filming you all the time.
Yeah.
Back then, you could have a shitty show and no one would really know, and you'd be like, I'll make it up tomorrow. But if you make one mistake or trip on a chord on stage, everybody sees it the next day, you know? So
I think it introduces a level of choreography even to
Exactly.
a band who is supposed to be just free and almost the antithesis of, you know, rehearsing like to that degree, you know.
I always tried to drastically try to catch somebody in their zone where it's like there's nobody else in the room, where they are just playing, and this is why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that now with newer acts because I don't think they've been able to do that live because there's phones. It's a different attention, and you just can't. There's still artists that do, and you can see it. I mean, you can. I'll give you a great. You go see the Red Hot Chili Peppers. John Frusciante.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his own world, playing in front of 20,000 people. All of a sudden, he somehow turns that off and just solos are different every night.
Mm-hmm.
He's not trying to like play it how he did the night before.
Right.
He doesn't worry about that shit.
that's probably the best way to go about it, honestly.
I don't think
just
new
jam.
kids know how to do that because
Yeah.
they've never experienced just playing to people without having to feel like they're being looked at. They're going to be put online.
And they never will.
Yeah, they won't.
Sad. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta find a way to tune everything out and play the music just for yourself and say, I'm content with that alone. whether it goes anywhere, I've written the song that I want to hear. I think there's a lot of that missing. There's a lot of these kids, they want to find validation, even in their other bandmates. Is that a good enough riff for you, friend? And it's just like, just tell them, this is the riff I'm doing. This is the riff I'm in love with, and this is the art I'm making. End of story. Are you with me or not? So I think it's harder to find that because, like you said, people are just growing up in front of the camera and living their entire life like with record being, pressed. Like everything is recorded, and you're wanting to act perfect or, look right before the eyes of others, and it's a mentality we kind of need to shift away from.
I just think that the youth has missed out on an experience that I don't think, like you said, I don't think they're gonna have it.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
I remember,
have it.
like, if some, like in music, if you wanted to go see the next big band that has a new album out, and they're playing California first, and they're not gonna get over to Michigan for a month, and you got friends across these, and you're hearing it's a killer show, you got to go see it. It builds up something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now you can just go on YouTube, like I said, and find it and go, oh yeah, I'm going to go to that. You already know what you saw, and it's not as cool an experience.
Right.
So in my photography, I try to capture whatever I can that a lot of the people are missing by doing that.
Okay.
Because some people ask me, how come you're showing like the legs and all? I'm like, because I want you to feel like you're there, not just a snapshot.
Yeah.
That's
right.
So as far as like the genres that you shoot, what are some of the main genres? Like, and how did that? You said you weren't really into metal, and then you seen Pantera. Did that help change that for you, and you started getting more into metal because of that?
I shouldn't say I wasn't into metal. It played its course for me. I grew up listening to early thrash metal.
Okay.
I mean, I remember buying the first Metallica, Kill 'Em All, and my punk rock friends enjoying it, but they were confused by the long hair in the back. But all my heavy metal friends hated it. Like, that's punk rock. What do you turn this off?
Okay.
Flash forward 4 years later, it's at every field party, playing through every car. Metallica rules, and I just used to so maybe that was kind of what discouraged me. It started getting popular, and I was at that age where I didn't want to like what everybody else liked.
Sure.
So I kind of fell off the plate because thrash metal started to all sound redundant. I loved it, but when you've heard the 5th version of Dark Angel, from some other state, it's like, all right, I need something new.
Yeah.
And I missed out on the whole black metal scene when that launched. I was more into punk rock. I got married, I had kids, I had some responsibilities then so I would just kind of pay attention to what I could find, what I liked, and I like everything. I get bored.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like with metal, I always come back to it. It'll take an act to bring me back, but in my record collection, I'd say the stuff that's still there that I listen to, a lot of it's metal.
Okay.
From when I was a kid. But the thrash metal thing just got me into what I saw for photography was still the energy of punk rock.
Yeah.
And thrash metal was bringing that.
Yeah, for sure.
But then all of a sudden, like I said, it became almost like you'd start seeing the bands on MTV.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it wasn't yours anymore. Like the
Right.
scene was.
Yeah, it wasn't punk
and that's
rock.
more of a childish thought. I mean,
get it.
you grow up.
Yeah.
I mean,
We understand that completely.
I mean, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
you always say, that sucks. That sucks. Honestly, to me, nothing sucks. It's just not my thing.
It's just not for you.
It's easy.
Yeah, that's what we say.
Yeah, I just need to go, this is not my thing.
Yeah.
Because if I say it sucks, it really makes me sound pretty unintelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of the
Narrow-minded.
time, those bands are working their ass off. There's a lot of stuff I've said that sucks or I don't like, but
Yeah.
it's just because I don't like it. It's not because they're not talented or,
Right.
getting their art out there. Did you have something? You look like you was going to say something because I have something that I wanted to say.
I'm in full agreement with you.
Okay.
Like, even when I think like the music is not my style, it doesn't mean that musician sucks.
Right.
And I have to call people out on that all the time.
Yeah.
This band sucks. I'm like, no, they don't suck. They're actually really talented. You just don't like them.
Yeah.
Let's words matter.
Yeah.
You don't get to this level, that height, that popularity because you suck.
Yeah.
Well, now
There's
say you're
more
going to
people
come
that
out
do
and
like
say
it.
you're badass, then it's kind of like being an artist and all of a sudden saying, this is art. Well, now you put yourself in a box that you can be judged because you're sitting on a pedestal claiming you're badass.
Yeah, that is true.
I don't see that in the metal world ever in music. I really never saw too many bands that took themselves too serious. That it got like stupid. I mean, even when I watched that Metallica movie, that really irritated me to watch that people are trying to make something work that obviously isn't going to be good. And it wasn't. When they came out with that record after, nobody liked it.
No.
Yeah.
You can't make a record with a counselor standing in the studio staring at you in an Argyle sweater and they're bitching about rehab and things like that. So
Very manufactured for sure.
But that in general is what kind of steered me away from trying to pursue making money in music photography, was that kind of vibe. And what you said about meeting your heroes,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't want to. That can be very discouraging when you built somebody up when you're young and you put them on a platform and you finally get the opportunity, and that person might be the nicest dude, but you caught him on the wrong day.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take that into consideration.
Yeah,
And
they
they
don't
say,
know
that guy's an asshole, fuck them, you know. And,
Right.
Doesn't it goes back to that sucks thing.
I kind of like
you know?
just going in and doing my 3 songs and not having to socialize because I don't want to be disappointed or be treated like they treat everybody, because it's an industry
Right.
where you feel like you're just in a business and not enjoying it. Like it's become more than just your passion.
Right. He's got to shake your hand and make a friend out of you to make sure that he keeps the fan, kind of that idea, right? Like just maybe they're trying to present themselves as genuine and authentic, but they're just putting on that character that says, hey, I'm happy to meet you, but really I just want to go and have a moment to myself. But since you're here now, I'll give you the attention.
I mean, I guess as a photographer, you got to take into consideration that if you're in a band that's playing any size venue that's drawing over 100 people and probably less, there's a little bit of you that's likes to have your picture taken because you're on stage, you're playing. There's something about you like being a.
You got a little ego going on there, yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
I get it, yeah.
So, as a photographer, you try to take advantage of that. You know, you try to capture that, and it's becoming harder.
So, what makes you decide what shows that you want to shoot? Like, what ones you want to go get that media pass for, and how do you get that media pass?
When I was younger, I just did everything because it was fun. It felt like a notch list where you just kept trying to fill your bucket list, you know, and then it just became what you knew. Getting credentials is a whole nother world, and it's not really that difficult if you have an outlet. But you can't just you can't show up at a venue the day of a show when they're bigger. You just got to start at small ones and learn the ropes. It's a lot of management. The bands usually have no input on it.
Yeah.
Until they see your stuff later, if they do. It's strictly, I think, you want to do it for the love of it.
But are you getting a hold of the managers of the clubs? I mean, how are you getting
I guess
into
if
these
you had
places?
never done it before, your best bet would be, yes, you could probably get a hold of your local venue.
Okay.
Talk to whoever is promoting the show there. If the venue isn't themselves, if they're running it out, you find the promoter.
Okay.
They will have definitely the management's contact. The bigger the band is, the more departments they are that you might have to weed through to find who's doing it. But most bands, it's pretty easy. They're going to send you to their PR person that does all their stuff, pretty much. They don't want to spend a lot of money, so they're making one person do a lot of crap. And it's sending in an email, and you have to present that you have an outlet that is legitimate. Your best bet, if you want to shoot a big band at arenas, is your local newspaper. Don't expect to get paid because they typically, because of the internet now even more, they're not really that interested. They don't have the budget, but it's a great way to build up your portfolio, get in the door right away, and be taken serious.
It's very nice.
Save your contacts because they always change. People are in and out trying to stair climb in that business, and they'll usually start in the marketing department, and a year later they might be like a different position or a different company bigger.
Okay.
Keep those and kind of keep track of the artists that you like, because a lot of management companies handle multiple artists.
Right.
They have to stay in business.
Yeah. Right.
So, and some of them are really big and hard to get through. Some of them are, and you're not going to find them online. That's the whole deal, is you can't, that's one of the few things that's hard to Google, because they do keep it, because they don't want to weed through their email every day and see 10,000 fans sending them shit.
Yeah.
Right. Amen.
I get that.
So it's a lot of known people, but there's usually like a marketing director at your local venue if it's a big one like an arena. But start with your friends' bands. Get your chops in that way. Take as many pictures as you can and figure out lighting, because that's the biggest thing, is lighting.
Yeah.
You can do outside concerts all day and they're really easy. You get into a venue, and especially if the band doesn't have a lot of production money, it's very difficult. You're going to you're limited with space and where you can shoot from. So you just got to learn all those things and try to work with it. Camera equipment's a whole nother story.
Well, before we get into that, while you're talking about lighting, how do you solve that problem?
When I was a kid, I learned very expensively, and the right way, I think, is I shot film. You would have to shoot at a high ISO, so you'd have to run your film speed. If you're buying a roll of film that says 400 film speed, you would have to set your camera for 1600 film speed, which is tricking that camera into shooting it so you can shoot at lower light.
Yep.
Then I would have to drive all the way to Grand Rapids, not knowing what you have because you're not shooting digital, pay for that roll to be what they call push processed, and then you drive back to Grand Rapids to get it to hope, and then you look at them. So that's how I really would dissect. You'd spend $60, $70 to $80 on a roll of film when you're done for one roll of 36 pictures.
Yeah.
So you would dissect the lighting, you'd look at your settings, and really pay attention and document. You'd have to pay attention to how you set things for the next show, and you'd get better every time.
Yeah, for sure.
So eventually when I go up there, I would notice that the girls or the guy behind the counter would actually say something more when they gave me, wow, these are pretty cool. So it made you feel better that you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
But with lighting, it's a lot of dark lights, a lot of low lights. And if you're doing any big shows, there's usually a time restriction. So you just got to learn quick. And
yeah. So you're solving that more on the camera because you can't have no lights and you're not having no flash and shit like that, right?
Nope, no flash usually. I mean, your punk rock and your little hall shows, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do what you want.
But when you start getting into bars, venues, an artist does not like it's become the rule now across the board. No flash, 3 songs.
Well, Axl Rose will have a word.
Yeah.
So thank you, Axl Rose.
So you get 3 songs.
3 songs. Larger the act, sometimes it's cut down to 2, 1. I've shot, say, Britney Spears. You get the first 90 seconds of the first song. You wait till the 3rd song, and you get the last 90 seconds.
And then they tell you to leave.
There's somebody standing right there, and they make you. When it comes to that level, they have the money, and they're controlling what is being presented on your computer and the social media. They're making sure that you're only getting the opportunity to get what they want you to get.
Okay.
Which I don't understand, considering up in front is 600 cell phones capturing the whole show. Mm-hmm. That's where the industry right now as a photographer for me is just kind of between that and all the things that went down with COVID and large events and how they ran those so differently depending on where you went and who was playing. It just kind of destroyed a lot of the media part of photography for concerts. They're just, it's a lot different now. Slipknot was my worst experience during COVID, which I never would have expected. And I was told it had to do with insurance. But for me to be in a photo barricade to shoot 3 songs, I had to wear a mask, which I'm not complaining about. But I had to wear a mask. I watched their crew all wear masks while they set up. And right behind the barricade is 12,000 people without masks on.
Right.
And I'm looking at this going, why are you playing?
Right.
Why are you doing this if you guys aren't, obviously nobody's all on the same page. So it just kind of screwed up. I just signed a 4-page contract, which I'd never seen before for a band like that.
Yeah.
And it was all logistics to cover their butt in case I got COVID. But I'm trying to figure out, why are you playing then? Why are you why are you putting yourself in a position and you have the whole venue is not wearing a mask. I don't know how that's different. I know you guys are wearing masks, but
yeah, they're wearing masks, not N95s, but
I think
but during that whole thing, it kind of shifted a lot of media on how they do things.
The insanity, the pitch fever.
I don't know what's come of it now. I haven't really. It kind of gave me a bad taste in my mouth, so I'm not as reluctant to rush out there and shoot concerts.
I'll say no one gives a shit now.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like crossed the line. We're over it. We're past it. We're not looking back. But to your point, Jeff, there was a lot of bullshit when they let us out or started to say, okay, we're going to be society again and slowly integrate. normalcy back into going out. You know,
You got a lot of good independent music made.
Yep.
I will say that. And you got a lot of cool podcasts.
I mean,
and creativity came
yeah.
out of that, but
It's thriving now.
there's a lot of
Music-
negatives, obviously.
Yeah,
Huge
music
negatives.
is going crazy now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much music now, which is pretty awesome.
Just
You know,
the way
so
things-
many concerts.
The way things were handled, though, I think a lot of people were really discouraged. You're not the only one. I know there were musicians that they were not ready to go out into the world and do their thing and make their living, even though they basically had to. Like, you know, that's how they earn their money and pay their bills, is their band. And some members in some bands they weren't ready, and they had to say, I'm leaving the band.
I think the most refreshing thing I saw after that was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, when Korn played Upheaval Fest. That was the first show that they had played.
Okay.
And to see, they flew in their kids to stand side stage, and to see Jonathan Davis walk out and hold his hands in the air and take a deep breath and say, it feels good.
Yeah.
To see that, I think I saw a show I don't think I'll see from them again in him.
All right.
Just that being able to be yourself again, like be free on stage and just not have to worry and rock.
Yeah.
And that was really needed at that time for those shows. But to see that was really neat, you know. It was still awkward to watch some of the crew wearing masks. You know, everybody's got their own decisions, but it changed everything in the industry and how they let people have access. I mean, I'm thinking if you're on tour, but nobody's allowed at all backstage, you shouldn't be on tour. You know, you're kind of putting yourself out there already. It's kind of setting a double standard. Like.
Right. I think,
but it was good for people to learn, I think, some things.
Musicians and bands were already trying to take better care of themselves because of things that happened with, like, Dimebag, right? So you're already trying to limit and restrict access to the bands because of events in, like, 2004.
That changed everything.
That changed a lot.
It changed a lot in what I do for a period of time and how they approached.
And I think those changes were necessary, in my opinion, Jeff.
Drastically.
So
it's a different world.
I've been on stage. First of all, I'll just say this. You take away what happened to Dimebag Darrell. You just take that out of your mind for a second. Anytime a fan is on stage uninvited, it's a pretty uncomfortable experience as a musician. You don't know what equipment they're going to knock over, what pedals they're going to step on, you know, what chords they're going to trip over, whatever. It's just nobody's there to see you. Nobody's there to see you. Everybody's there to see and listen to the band. So everybody that's standing on the dance floor should have that concept firmly in place in their mind. Nobody's there to see you. Maybe somebody's there to meet you, hook up with you, but no, absolutely nobody came there to see you. Everybody's there to, you know, for the entertainment purposes that are provided.
If you ever went to Harpo's in the 90s, or maybe even, I don't think now, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, you didn't dare get on that stage, or you learned your lesson out in the alley.
Yeah.
That was a whole nother ball game.
It's just uncomfortable for musicians unless they're inviting you up there. I've been invited onto a stage. It's cool. That's fun. They're like, hey, everybody up here, let's do the thing. That's fun. You know, you don't get that very often. But when you think you're the show and you go up there and you're about to step on somebody's pedals or unplug their gear or knock over their cymbal stand, man, what an ass. What an ass.
Speaking of that, at the show at Pyramid Scheme, if he dies.
Yeah, somebody got booted right off the stage by Ephraim. You know?
You got.
Yeah, he was kind the
that.
first time. The second time, he's like, "I've had enough of this, dude. You're out of here."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, you know,
Me, I like that shit as a photographer, but as a musician, I could see that being very irritating.
Yeah.
Well, it'd have been one thing if the guy got up there and then he just stage dived, but he was like up there dancing. And it was like, who the fuck are you? Get the fuck out of here! Like,
yeah, like you need to have an objective. Outside
Well, he's
of
very
yourself
lucky he didn't deal with that BAM back in the day. Would have been a different story.
with different outcome. So that's just like, you know, the entertainment aspect of things. Now you enter like your safety concerns. Now re-enter Dimebag Darrell. Absolutely nobody in that band wants you on our stage. Like, please don't come up here. Now I'm scared for my life. Who are you?
I've been scared,
What
not
are you
for my
doing?
life, but I've been scared for my equipment and my skull shooting certain concerts. But in the day, I kind of fed off it. Like Slayer shows. I mean, some
Maybe
of
if
the shows like that, but I don't think you can. Well, you can capture that. I see it once in a while, but
I have little alarms that go off unless I know that face. and I can trust that person on the stage. Like, oh, that's a personal friend of mine. It's all good. But if it's just somebody I've never seen before, I'm having a whole what's going on moment in my brain. I'm like fight or flight all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I may be a little unnerved if somebody's on the stage where I'm performing and it's unrehearsed and it's undiscussed and basically unwelcome. So there are safety concerns there.
I
So
never see that in the black metal scene. I think the kids are too scared of the dude.
they're all wearing armor
Or spikes and shit.
Yeah,
too.
no shit. It was like, excuse me, slap, fucking.
I never thought about that.
Nailed
That
to
is a
the
good
face.
restriction for
Yeah.
keeping people away from
I
it.
think safety is a valid concern with musicians these days.
I should get spikes wrapped around the end of my camera lens.
There you go. Yeah.
Just
Pull up. So
Yeah.
you've talked to you have given some tips, but I'm just wondering, say somebody wants to get in this, what would be like 2 or 3 things, maybe 4 or 5, just bullet point things that you don't have to get into super detail, but what would you tell somebody that wants to get into this? Besides, we'll leave out the part about you got to be passionate about it, and that has to take first and foremost over wanting to make any money or have it be a business, because we're just going to scrap that because we could be talking for
I
2
got
more
you.
hours just about that. But just as far as like, what would you give somebody some pointers that want to do what you do, Jeff?
The first thing in photography, and I'm sure in all walks of it, be it entertainment, sports, it becomes, at first, everybody thinks it's all equipment. And it becomes an equipment race where everybody's comparing and you got the newest things of that. I always tell kids or younger, whoever's trying to get into it, you remember National Geographic?
Yes,
Been out
absolutely.
since what, the 50s or 60s?
Mhm.
Those are some of the best pictures in the world.
Amen.
They took it with a metal camera in the jungle with film.
Mhm.
It's not all about your camera.
Mm.
Be settled with the camera you get and quit worrying about it. Spend a little money on the lens, because that's the big part. Nowadays, you can get a badass camera for under $500 that'll last you a long time. I've got a lens that I've had for 20 years. Yeah, it was $700 back then, but I still use it. And it is a go-to for pros still today. It's because the equipment thing will get you in a rat race.
Yeah.
You'll spend a lot of money for nothing. Put your energy into shooting.
Mm.
Don't look at too many magazines all the time and pictures to the point where you feel like you're copying people. You got to find your own style.
Okay.
If you want to stand out, especially in music photography, it's kind of a dime a dozen, and nobody's willing to pay for it unless it's something that really grabs them. So you got to think. I always thought that you're always in your mental mind when you're shooting concerts, you're always trying to get that cover shot.
Mm.
Always think of it being a cover shot.
Okay.
I did some video for hockey, and the guy that was my boss gave me some of the best advice, being a video guy that kind of related to my shooting. He's like, listen, I hired you because I love your images and what you do. Video, think of every still that you're capturing has to be how you shoot. Always think. So that's where I come back. Always try to get the goal of shooting a magazine cover. And just you can't be discouraged. I mean, you're going to be let down a lot. You're not going to get return emails. You're not going to, if you can find a local newspaper to give you the access, just do it for free if you're really adamant about it. Problem is there comes a time where you don't want to be too cheap or too free, because your whole career, nobody will take you serious.
You're right.
So you got to find the middle ground, stick with it, and you got to be willing to say no, even when you want to. If somebody's just trying to take you for what they... there's hundreds of kids across America that'll go shoot Avenged Sevenfold for free in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
And they got good equipment, and they'll do it. You better be able to stand out to where they don't look at that and hunt you out. I don't know anymore how you get in people's face to show them your work. There's too much on social media that's almost overwhelming. I'm almost to the belief that I'm almost too old to do it now because I'm not hungry for it, but I think you go build a hard-ass portfolio.
Okay.
And FedEx that thing. Once you find the right person, you know it's the right person. FedEx it to them. I think it might surprise them nowadays. They might. They'll definitely remember that more than an email that they just went through 20 of them.
Right.
And it'll be on their desk.
Yeah.
And they'll have it in their office.
Yeah.
Just build those, send pictures out, And don't be afraid to go. I'll tell you how I got started dealing with big bands was pot. You can't do that now. But you can still go at 3 p.m. They're at the venue usually. They usually have sound check at 4 o'clock. It's almost an unwritten rule on tours. 4 or 4:30 is your sound check.
Mhm.
They do media after or whatever else. Then they get dinner. They rest for a little bit. Then they go play. So if you can get there at the venue at 2 p.m, 3 p.m, you're almost being a stalker, I guess, but you have a reason to. If you have a package to give them,
Mhm.
bring it to them. Not many people bring them the pictures that they took of them, and everybody likes a good picture of themselves. Kind of, if you're in a band, you do. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, and they'll hold on to it.
Yeah.
Write anything on the back that makes them remember your name.
There you go.
But when I was a kid, I just went to the intersection in Easttown, Limp Bizkit. They had an RV. They were opening up for Smash Mouth because they were on the same label, and at the last minute, Interscope threw them on the bill because they wanted them to get promoted. I went out and talked with them. I knew that they had the DJ from House of Pain. I knew he smoked weed. So I just offered to catch them buzz outside. They didn't have shit. They were broke. They were in a beat-up RV. They went in. They played. They ended up getting cut short because they were blowing the roof off the place. Smash Mouth got pissed.
Oh,
He
God.
said, get them off the stage. We have to follow this. It was exactly what happened. And they went back out to the RV. I got them high, and I remember the DJ looked at me, and he's like, what you got going on tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, well, we're playing with the Deftones in Chicago. If you want to go, I'll throw you on the list. So I went. I brought my camera, and I brought some more weed, and talked to the Deftones.
And we're talking like, what, 94, 95 here?
Yeah, 93, 94.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's early Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, I was
days.
going to
So
say it had
back-
to be
And this
$3
is
bill.
a time where it was illegal, so they couldn't go into any dispensary or anything.
Right,
So
right.
So I used that as a tool because I wanted to meet my favorite bands that I listened to, and I wanted to take some pictures.
Mhm.
I didn't expect anything more out of it, and I drastically regret this to this day, but I never took any photos backstage
Ugh.
because I always felt like they might think I'm a narc because I brought weed, too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy. And then I learned that I got invited a lot more to be in scenarios that I think if I was that dude with the camera out, they wouldn't have.
Right.
They just knew that you kept it in your bag until we played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of regret about not getting photos of bands that were up and coming.
Sure.
But in the end, like I say, it's memory that I cherish more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
I think when you have a camera on your neck and your back where you're not supposed to be, and even if somebody brought you back there,
Right.
everybody's demeanor changes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
People change.
No,
And especially if it's a band that's trying to present an image, whatever it is, it's awkward.
Well,
so I just learned to keep it in my backpack. But I just tell kids to be hungry. And it used to be that you could look at the back of a CD and figure out who to get a hold of.
Yeah.
A little easier. But it's a little harder now, but I would say just go to your local venues and talk to promoters. That's the quickest way because they have the contact because they're the ones that have to pay them.
Okay.
So they have the direct contact.
That sounds good. I mean, it's like anything else in this world, too. Do it a lot. Besides the passion part, you just got to do it a lot, and you got to learn as you go. Just go do it. Don't wait till you have that awesome $7,000 camera or you're saving up and you might do it one day. You just got to get out there, do it with what you have right now, and that's just going to help you learn along the process and get better and get better.
It's always refreshing, especially at festivals, because they grant a lot of press credentials. So you'll be walking in the photo pit with 60 to 100 different photographers. It's kind of strange in the metal scene. I see a lot more people that are there because they like the music too. They'll have their battle vest on with their, they're into it. Go to a lot of other genres. And I could be wrong, but just by the appearance and talking and conversation, the people don't seem as into the music itself.
Okay.
I think in the metal world with music photography, it's probably a lot easier to approach bands. There's not as many restrictions and like I'm cooler than you type.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more obvious in metal if they are like that. It's
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
pretentious right away. You can tell. You don't find it very. I haven't.
Right. That's good. That's
Like,
good to know.
In the bands that I like, typically I would have got turned off before I even got to that level if I felt I wouldn't have wanted to cover them. Right? Some bands I've been completely shocked that they're not like you think. Like Avenged Sevenfold would be a great one. I'm not a fan, I think they're talented dudes, but behind the scenes, they're all really nice guys.
Yeah.
But I get from watching the big production videos and the photo shoots that you see that they've paid for and stuff, it's like they're over the top, like Hot Topic rock, you know?
No, they are now, Jeff, but I think having followed them from the beginning, they were the archetype of handing out the flyers, going out there and meeting their
Probably
fans.
the last generation of bands that did that.
Yeah, they were, and Limp Bizkit as well. Some of the last real hustlers to get out there and feet on the street, create their fan base. Avenged Sevenfold, they come from that background, and now they are where you say they are, where they're enormous, they're Metallica sized, and they give off the sense of almost not reachable. Like they're a little bit larger than life. Their production is huge, but they come from hall shows, and they come from handing out flyers, and they come from Vans Warped Tour.
It's kind of what's changed in the music industry, I think, in general, is everything's become more dependent on a production when it comes to the large venue scenes.
Yeah.
To where I think the bands have way more to think about than they used to. They used to just go out and jam and rock, and if you liked them, they fed off it, and you got a damn good show.
Yeah.
Now it's like they're worried about, on the third song, we got this going in pyro here, and video comes up on that one, and this, and they have to pay attention to that while they're playing to make sure their cues are right. And
it's something that I roll around in the back
seems
of
like
my
work.
mind. Yeah, no, it's definitely something it takes up a lot of time and energy as you're creating like your whole presentation of your art, right? You've already written it, and you feel good about it. Now you've moved on to, okay, like you say, during the third song, there's the sequence, either leading into the track or in the middle of the track, and you have to be mindful of it, and it's a lot more work now, but you have to be mindful of it.
If you're a photographer down in those pits, learn that stuff abruptly, because you will get the shot better.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, here's a great example. When Metallica plays, when they play in the round, you're allowed to walk around that whole stage too, with on the other side of the barricade right against the stage. This would be a great example where at that level of photography, the people that got granted, half of them were Metallica fans.
Right.
Half of them were just got assigned it for the Grand Rapids Press or for this, and it's just another job.
Right.
So as I remember, as I walked around the stage, I'm looking at pedals, and if you've ever seen that show, there's mics and pedals all the way around. So eventually, everybody in that venue gets a front view.
Right.
So Kirk Hammett could be playing 4 different spots. He has 4 different sets of pedals around that whole stage.
Right.
I've been a Metallica fan, so I know when I'm looking at pedals, who's going to be where. And one of the newspaper guys asked me what I was looking at. And not to be a jerk, but I was like, don't worry about it. Because it's kind of like war when you're down there. When there's a bunch of people getting granted access, you only get 3 songs. I've been considered I don't play nice. I got a fish lens. I got my arms up where all of a sudden I'm in front of somebody else's arms, and I'm blocking their shot. And I'm respectful of that with people that I know are there that do it for a career shooting music.
Right.
If my friend Ken Settle in Detroit, or numerous guys like that, I'm going to be observant of that. I might do it quick and then get right out of your way and give you your spot, because I know you're there to do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that get a lot of granted access that probably delete all that stuff right after they hand it into their boss.
Yeah, because it's just a job.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat to know that you might be one of 150 people in the whole U.S. that got to shoot that tour.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is a little notch on your belt too.
Mm-hmm.
But it does become, as I've gotten older, you fill your bucket list, and the music industry's changed, and people having restrictions kind of frustrate you a little quicker, and you just kind of throw in the towel and say, I'm not doing this. Whereas when you were younger, you just go through the motions, and you go through the motions, and eventually it happens, but it doesn't seem as fun. When you're done going through all that, it didn't seem like the experience you thought it was going to be. And everybody thinks that when you get there, this is the funniest thing with music photography. People think that when you get there, you're hanging out with the band, and you're there the whole night with them.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
You go to Van Andel, they're going to stick you in a security office with the Grand Rapids Police Department, who's sitting there watching TV, drinking coffee, waiting for the show to get done so they can direct traffic, and the other photographers with all their laptops doing their work. And then somebody will come in and go, all right, follow me. And then you walk in for your 3 songs, and then you have to go back into that room. You can't have your camera in the building after that. Then if you're lucky enough, they gave you a ticket too. But for you to see the show, you got to go bring your camera to your car because you can't have it in the building. So by the time you've done all this, it's work. And then you don't, you kind of lost the fun of, like when I have 2 tickets, I never used to bring anybody out time. I go over to like Stella's or something and go, who likes Elton John? Like me. I'll give you this for dinner and some drinks. Yeah. And they're calling somebody right away to get them to cover for them. They're running across the street to Elton John, It just takes a lot of the fun. Whereas you can go to metal shows, man. They'll let you hang out in the building. You can go to Blondie's. Blondie's is from the 80s. Like Harpo's. Right. Even like if you go to Grand Rapids to the intersection, you'll get your 3 songs in the barricade, but then you can sit inside and have your camera on you. Yeah. Still hang out with your friends, do all that. It's just kind of abuse. You don't want to abuse any guidelines that people give you. Mm-hmm. But then again, you're going to have to sometimes if you want to get that freaking shot.
Yeah. So just in a roundabout way, how many shows have you done? Probably more than you can count, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't
That's probably
really, I got to the point where I was doing them just because I realized that's all I knew how to do. Or that's all I did for my entertainment.
Sure.
So that's when I had to step back and go, listen, you're not enjoying this anymore. You're just doing it because that's all you know to do for your entertainment.
Good observation.
So I kind of sat back, and when I have that feeling, I find other topics to photograph.
Okay.
And I'll always come back to music because I'm a music freak, or something will inspire me. Like we were talking before around here about Gojira.
Right.
That's the first band in a long time. I kind of had to hustle a little bit because I wanted to shoot them. Right. I haven't done that in a while, and it felt weird because it used to be the norm, like every other day, sending requests and waiting emails.
But this one had a little
I was like, God, I almost forget how to do that. Does it still work this way? And I had to call my buddy. He's like, you could get a hold of this management. It's the same one as Anthrax. And I'm like, all right. Nice. And when I went, my buddies have been in the industry long enough in the sound crew business that they knew, they told me to ask for so-and-so and he'd be cool with you. And that gave me a good feeling about the metal world right now.
Good.
Because I didn't think that band with that bill, I say it was Behemoth, maybe.
Behemoth, and who did you see Gojira with at 20 Monroe?
Oh, I've seen them with Code Orange.
Okay, I saw them with Anthrax and somebody else over in Detroit at the Freedom Hill Amphitheater. And I guess I'd been out of the realm a little bit of the metal world, and because of just everything being closed for so long with COVID, I was shocked at the amount of people that came out for that show. And maybe it's just because they were hungry for a live show too. Mm-hmm. But when that band, and that was an opening band, they weren't headlining.
Right.
I could not believe the amount of kids that knew the lyrics of every song. And I was like, wow, maybe metal isn't really dead, and somebody can write something that doesn't sound like it's been rewritten 100 times. Yeah. Because that's hard to do in any music.
Yep. Yeah.
Being 22, 24 frets on a neck, and you listen to the same metal music for 30-something years.
Oh, we know.
It's hard to find.
Yeah, we know.
I thought they were a fresh take. Did you find them to be extremely loud?
Yes.
Yeah, I did too. I thought they were
loud with
loudest.
A modern loud sound. Like I don't want to say hip hop, but they had this low end that reminded me of hip hop shows too. Like maybe it's just a newer way of
the bass
sound.
drops.
Yeah, they were doing something with the bass, but it sounded mechanical at times. It wasn't played to a tape like some bands are doing now.
They were super loud. They were one of the loudest bands I've ever seen. Gojira, like absolutely. So, quick story on them. I did meet them. I met them in Chicago. I won some sort of like meet and greet, sort of if you're first up in the morning, 10 a.m. Let's buy these tickets and win the meet and greet. And I did. And I got to chat with them for a few minutes. Really down to earth guys. 3 of them speak English well enough to converse with. The drummer at the time he would just kind of nod and agree, and he was limited on the English. But every one of them, all 4 of them, still the same members, really, really nice guys. Before I got to meet them, they were all hanging out in this little vegan restaurant below the venue. So this is basically like an Eagles-type hall show around the Way of All Flesh era, 2008, 2009. But they're all just hanging in there. I walk in just to get a drink. I turn around, all of the guys from Gojira with their significant others are just sitting there smiling, eating their meals, and I'm just like, I'm going to leave them alone because I'm going to meet them in like 10 minutes, like formally, so not bother them. But again, to your point, really nice guys. If you get a chance to meet them, probably one of the nicer guys you're going to meet in metal, and they are original, and they bring back some of that real visceral energy that should be drawing new fans out to them.
I thought they brought a modern edge that I hadn't heard, that I didn't wasn't even sure it was possible to make anything more modern sounding out of metal. I thought Fear Factory would have been the last one that took it to a technical, industrial kind of. But it seems like everybody's kind of exhausted. Anything you can do in metal.
Yeah. It's getting there, but there's always going to be something new or something groundbreaking with it. So, what about some favorite shows that stood out to you? Just maybe one or two that really.
Slayer Halloween Night at the Orbit Room.
Ooh.
Nice.
Scary.
Yeah.
Scary.
I believe it.
Nah, I pretty much thought there was going to be a riot that night. So did Slayer's crew. Somebody had thrown a garbage can that they keep all the returnables and shit from the balcony off to the floor, and it landed on the soundboard.
Oh my God.
Oh.
10 minutes before Slayer were to take stage. So imagine being in the Orbit Room where they're scurrying trying to figure out if it's going to play. It's Halloween night, Slayer, and I remember being in the barricade, and one of the techs from Slayer's group came down and grabbed me firmly so nobody else could hear what he said in my ear and said, "You might want to get by the emergency doors right now. I don't know if we're going to be playing. This does not look good."
Wow.
And Slayer's crowd was just getting riled, and all the people I know that worked there were looking pretty worried. About 15 minutes after they were supposed to go on, finally you heard the intro and everything calmed down. But that every time you go see Slayer as a photographer, I don't care who you are opening for Slayer, nobody gives a shit.
Right.
I don't care.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
they
care
don't
if
give a fuck.
they might like you that night.
Yeah.
They don't want to see you. And when you're in the pit, you're trying to obviously shoot the band. When Slayer's playing, it's a sea. Depending on the venue, if they allow it, it's a sea of kids flying over. So you got to be aware of your back. So you can't fully focus on what you're doing. And the energy that they portray, it just builds and builds and builds to the point where you just want to get out of there because you don't feel safe, because security doesn't feel safe.
Right.
It's like you feel like you're in the way of security. And the security at Slayer shows hate when there's press in there because you're just an obstacle that they don't need.
Yeah.
That would probably be one of the top ones, and probably some of the early punk rock shows like Black Flag. I don't think I'll ever see anything like that, probably because of my age. All the mystique of not knowing, just reading about punk rock from California and how scary, they built it up so much that you're finally going to go see this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember walking in and seeing Henry Rollins. Back then he had hair down to his nipples, tattoos, sitting in a chair reading poetry. And we were 15, scared to even go walk to talk to him because he was just scary from everything you saw in pictures. But I'm very jealous that I didn't get into shooting pictures. Wish I was a little older, so I would have started a little younger.
Right.
What about any horror stories? You have one or two that stick out that been a real pain in your thorn in your side?
I've never really had too many. I had one bad shoot with I Hate God.
Yeah.
Didn't know much about them except for my friend who was a big avid fan. Another friend in Grand Rapids, rest in peace, Chris Johnson. He was working with them. He's worked with Randy, Lamb of God, and a few other acts.
So we're familiar with him. He was Dive's manager and stuff. Yeah.
And just we did a photo shoot at a little club upstairs. It was a dingy. It fit their look. They're very. I don't know if you know who they are, fans out there, but it's a New Orleans sludge rock band.
They're kind of like doomy sludgy. They're not really my thing, but
been known for very hard drug abuse. Really nice guys. Mike, the singer, was really, really nice. I was thrown off by his Russian sickle T-shirt with bloodstains on the front, and I knew his drug past. But he's very nice. They didn't look very healthy. Photo shoot went great. And I didn't have a bad experience, but when I got home, I looked at all the pictures, and I noticed that the last picture I took, the drummer threw up the white power sign.
Oh.
So instantly not a fan. I was kind of disgusted that I didn't notice it when I was looking through my lens. And to carry that further, years later, I put in a request to interview Phil Anselmo and Hank Williams III with Super Joint Ritual at the Machine Shop.
Okay.
I went, I reported to the bus at the time they told you to come. I waited, knocked on the door, nobody answered. Started feeling like the fanboy. You don't want to just stand there feeling stupid.
Right.
As I'm walk away, somebody came off the bus that I'd kind of known and said, "Hey, are you here to do an interview?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Just a minute." Came back out, brought me on the bus, brought me to the back. I had asked my friend who had worked for Pantera for years, "What do you talk to Phil about? He's done thousands of interviews.
Right.
I don't want to like do the same. Who's your favorite? You know, what's your influence? All
Yeah.
that crap." And he was hard to get at that time too. Really, I was kind of shocked I got the interview, but I got it. He's like, "Talk to him about boxing. He likes boxing, like old boxing, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, all that stuff." I'm like, okay. So I got this agenda in my head. I go back there, and Hank, I'd met before, super nice guy. I love him. He's rolling joints, and Phil's there, and I hit my tape player, and instantly as he's talking, it sounds like this. He's talking. And I ask him a couple things, and I notice that Hank's kind of uncomfortable, and then mid-sentence, Phil nods out.
Oh.
And I notice Hank hits him in the leg, and his head comes right back up. And that happened like 3 times. And when I left, I was just kind of, like you say, sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right, I went into the venue, and as they played, I have a photo of him throwing up the fucking white power sign and screaming, "White power, white power." He's been quoted a couple times in that time period.
Right.
He's apologized for it.
Right.
But that really kind of, as a photographer, that pissed me off. As a fan, it pissed me off.
Yeah.
And it's an image that, you know, it's embedded in my head, and it was a very bad experience of, like you say, your heroes. Like, he wasn't my hero.
Yeah, but
That day I left, really, I remember going home. I took the CDs, I had it down, which I liked, and it might be childish, but I just threw them away. I was like, I'm done with this. Like,
Yeah.
And I remember the beautiful experience with Dimebag, and I was trying to think. It didn't make sense how that could be, and he captured him at a different time.
Yeah.
Right.
The last tour of Pantera that you're talking about,
Yeah.
he stayed in the dressing room of the other band. His dressing room was with Trey and Morbid Angel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He was not talking to the band.
You mean Phil?
Phil.
Yeah.
He would come out, beat his head with a mic till it would bleed, wear the most black metal shirts, just he could barely walk, it seemed like. He was pain from his back.
His back was fucked up.
Yeah, so he was in a dark time at that time. So
that tracks.
And I don't mean to talk, I mean, those guys are on tour right now, and they're doing something, but man, if you're going to see Pantera now, man, you missed the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're trying to get. If you're a young kid, I mean, I get it. You just want to see something. But if you've seen them before, I don't think it's going to give you what you want.
I've seen them like 5 times. So
they may even sound great right now. They've got Charlie, my boy from Anthrax, on the kit. So
they got all the talent in the world on that stage.
they got Zach out there. And those dudes, they're not just talented people, Zach and Charlie. Those are friends.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I don't have 100% buy-in myself. I'm for it for new fans. Like, go see Pantera, cool. I'm even going to a festival where they're headlining, but I don't think I'm going to be at their stage when they're headlining. I'm going to be somewhere else just to see somebody else. Because I've seen the real Pantera.
Yeah, I've had people out, "Are you shooting Pantera in Grand Rapids?" I'm like, nah, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
it's not really Pantera.
Yeah.
It is, but it's not.
I'm having a hard time, like, having like the 100% buy-in, or I green light it for everybody that wants to go and see it, but for myself personally, I'm just not interested. I've seen them before.
I thought it was kind of cool when it was announced until it turned into a whole year or two of keep touring and making money off it.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, come on,
they're
seems
still
like a
going.
cash grab now.
Yeah.
And it's fine, do it, have fun with it, but the minute that they tell me that they're dropping a Pantera album, it's going to be all hell breaking loose, because I'm not really buying that either.
Yeah, I don't know how they would do that,
I don't think
because
they'll do
without Dimebag, it's not Pantera
Right.
as far as
Yeah.
on album.
Yeah.
Vinny, to me, could be replaceable. He was a huge part of that sound, but as far as like writing riffs,
Yeah.
Zach isn't writing Pantera riffs.
No.
So
I mean, I love those guys, but yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I don't even think he'd tread on that.
no,
He's got
no,
enough
probably
respect
not.
for that.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably.
Well, I want to, before we start wrapping up here, I want to talk about your show coming up.
I've got a show in Muskegon at Fricano's building, March 8th through the 29th.
Okay.
It's not all music related. a lot of different genres of stuff I take photos of, but there will be a good section of music stuff, black and white and color. I'm going to try and do some shots of some iconic artists that have passed and some new stuff. I'm trying to lean towards not worrying about what other people would want to see as much as what I want to show, because I haven't really ever had a full show like this.
Okay.
Should be about 30 pieces. It's going to cover a lot of nature, because I do a lot of nature photography to clear my head.
Okay.
That's
Very
kind of my
nice.
escape. It gets me outside. It gets me to new places. It gets me off my lazy butt.
Yeah. Probably
'Cause-
thinking differently than
Yeah,
a
and-
crowded venue with people flying everywhere.
I just realized I spent too much time in a dark venue. I was just
Yeah.
talking to my buddy in Grand Rapids in a band, and he brought up something that was so. He's like, dude, I love you. I see you all the time, but the only time we've ever talked is at a venue where I got to scream, and both of us can only understand half of what we're saying. We've never just gone and hung out.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, you're right. I have a lot of friends like that
Yeah.
because of what I chose to do for
Right.
30 years and not being in the town that they live in. You know, we're close to Grand Rapids, but the only time I would see the friends that I built were at concerts,
Yeah.
Right.
which is good too. I think it's good.
Dude, I feel the same.
So you got about 30 pieces at the Fracano's building downtown from, what did you say, March 2nd
March 8th,
8th
through the 29th.
through the 29th.
9th.
And so anybody can just walk in there and check it out, or
Yep,
how does
yeah,
that
it's
work?
the whole floor of the Fracano's building. Fracano's building is a pizza place, and it has 3 different banquet halls that they rent out.
Yep.
Mhm.
So it's pretty large. Seems like I get the whole main floor
Very nice.
through all the hallway.
Hmm.
We'll have a little VIP thing for an hour, and then the show starts from 7 to 9.
Okay.
You'll be able to purchase some stuff. We're going to have some T-shirts made of different designs, but it's going to be held at Do Gallery, which is my friend Doogie. He just moved back here from Atlanta. He's pretty involved in the art world in general. He's kind of bringing a cool art vibe to Muskegon, Muskegon's just blowing up.
I'm loving it right now. I'm loving all the growth down in that area.
I like all of what's going on in Muskegon. When I grew up, I live in Grand Haven, which is kind of a snooty town considered, and it was kind of vice versa. Like, people from my town, I'm not going to Muskegon.
Right.
And people in Muskegon were like, you guys are a bunch of snots. But now my friends in Muskegon are like, dude, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody how cool it is, or we don't want it all. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, I get it.
Oh man, Muskegon's had a major come up in the last 20 years or what have you. Just a nice growth for all things Western Avenue, the restaurants, the music scene revival. Anything happening in the art world right now is welcome.
One thing I forgot to bring up when you asked about how somebody can get involved in becoming a music photographer in general, I would say nowadays, start a webpage.
Mm.
But you're going to have to work to have some content that's going to impress a management. So it's going to be a lot of work. But
Yeah.
if that's what you want, I mean, it's a good outlet for all your stuff, because if you do it all yourself, you can do phone interviews, you can do live interviews showing up.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot more. I guess there's a lot more outlets, but there's a lot more competition now.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you're going to get discouraged probably a lot more shutdowns, but it's just a click of a mouse and you can upload things and go somewhere else. So
Right.
if you're that guy that wants to promote like crazy, I would say starting your own webpage or even just a portfolio, but don't put much on it. If you can pay to have a nice professional site, which there's lots of services now online, you can lock your photos out. So somebody has to have a password to see them. My best advice to you would be, after every show that you shoot, be it your friend's band, to if you got into a large venue, send those links to the people that got you in with that password, so they know it's protected. It'll instantly give you a more professional look that they'll respect right away. So you're not just trying to give it to anybody you can, but it'll take you a little longer. But I think that nowadays, with the way technology is and computers and social media, you kind of want to be that dude that just shows enough that shows people you know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and show the work that you've done. That's about it.
Okay.
Some of the best websites for photography, there's not much information. It's
Yeah.
a couple really impactful images, but the people they want to have access to the full gallery can have it.
Mhm.
Like, it's cool to have a portfolio on your Facebook. Like, you could build a portfolio site on your Facebook. Just make them small DPI, and try to build a real portfolio. So you do have a major outlet that looks like you're professional, because anybody can have a web page.
Yeah, right.
I would say spend a little money, go get your whatever .com through GoDaddy and build just a professional web page. Not much information, not confusing, and don't expect to use it much except as a way to show the people that you really want a job for.
Cool.
I don't see as many of them nowadays. People don't, which I get. People aren't looking at a .com like a Jeff Brinn photography.com. They're
Right.
going to the Instagram page and
Yeah.
quick,
Right.
and then go to the next one. So, I mean,
You have to tie your social media to your webpage. I think you're right
Yeah.
to have the webpage and have it exclusively your content and your message and your presentation the way
it just
you want
gives it gives you a little bit more of a professional edge look than everybody that has an Instagram page and a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you only have the Instagram or the Facebook, I think you're kind of doing a disservice. And it does cost a little bit of money, but not a lot, maybe to start up and maintain a web page. But you definitely set yourself apart.
See, now I contradict myself now because I have not launched mine again. I let it go out,
Sure.
but I'm not hungry right now to go. I don't want the contact of wanting weddings and things like that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
where I have to follow up and go,
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing that right now.
Sure.
When I'm ready to do it, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, Jeff's telling you if you want to do it, bring the hunger, because Jeff's telling you he's done it, and you may lose the hunger.
Yeah. And anything worth pursuing, you said it's going to be a lot of work, but anything worth pursuing is a lot of work, and you need to just look that.
If you're a true fan of music, though, if you're getting into music photography, just be prepared for a lot of disappointment and don't let it discourage you.
Yeah.
Because just remember, there's a lot of people out there who will do it for free just so they can meet their favorite band.
Right.
You don't want to be considered that.
Right. Heard that.
Some of the best advice
Keep
I
it-
got was from one of the photographers that I've always been influenced by, Mr. Ross Halfin.
Okay.
He told me, and he can do this at his level a lot easier, but it made sense. He goes, when you show up to go do a photo shoot, you treat those rock stars like you're a bigger rock star than they are.
There you go.
So they take you serious.
There you go.
And he goes, perfect example. I went to do Sum 41 for Metal Hammer for a cover shoot. I got there. Their manager came out and said, I had all my equipment set up. The manager said that the singer won't be able to make it. He's not feeling well. So I just turned around and started packing my shit up.
Ugh.
You know how quick that singer showed up for that shoot?
Yep.
After I started unpacking my lights away?
Yeah.
He goes, you just got to be able to set your likings aside and do the right thing and
Right.
show them who you are.
Yeah.
Amen. That's awesome advice too, because I know some people would say, "Oh, I guess I get to meet 4 out of 5 guys in some 41 today and take 4 out of 5 guys photos today." But
Well, and he gave me some advice that when you make friends with the actual artist, if they're at any caliber that they have management, that's kind of a no-no to management. They get pissed
okay,
because they want to be the one.
right,
So he goes, I was friends with John, John Bon Jovi. He goes, I was showing him the proof sheets of our portraits of him, having him circle the ones he liked. Management got wind that I did that. I haven't worked with John in a while. It's that control thing.
yep,
But he taught me a lot about things I wish I would have heard when I was younger, because it's hard to do that if you really want to do something bad. It's hard to just put your foot down and walk away and go, it's not happening because I'm not going to get used
right,
just because I want to meet you or be cool or whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah, and you feel like that opportunity won't be there again. It's kind of a scarcity mindset as well when you say no to things sometimes, but you don't want to overstretch yourself either. I've been there for sure.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, if you can get tied into one management company, stick with them. Keep sending them stuff. Even if it's not their artist, just kind of send them some stuff so they know you're still there.
right,
Because I think those people just kind of decide nowadays, like, on a whim, all right, I'm going to need a photographer for this shoot. And they just open their email, breeze through a couple. They're not really hunting it out because they have 100 other jobs to do. It's not as big a factor to them as it is you, the photographer.
right, right.
They don't really care.
All right. Well, we're about to wrap this thing up. Is there anything else that you want to say or got any other points or questions for Jeff?
Not off the top of my head, but thanks for stopping by, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, dude.
I want to know what's next for Jeff. You got any long-term goals? I know that you said you're not as hungry as you were before, but I'm sure you still got some things you'd like to accomplish. So what you got?
I just received a Nikon scanner that scans slides that I got to find an old computer that takes FireWire.
Oh, okay.
I've got well over 10,000 slides I've never printed
Oh wow,
of all acts like that, from Pantera, Metallica, Limp Bizkit, all that stuff that I did on slide that I believe I pretty much own now because it's expired the copyright law. It's been over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like I always had that in the back of my head that most people in photography try to do anything they can with the image they capture as soon as they get it.
Right.
So a lot of those images of Dimebag Darrell have been exhausted.
Right.
Because everybody, especially since he passed.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
now I just figured, you know what? You're sitting on a lot of cool stuff that nobody's seen.
Mhm.
So maybe when you're ready to scan it all and you organize it all,
Mhm.
that's when you can find some publishers or I'm going to approach the magazine outlets again, like the bigger ones,
Oh yeah.
and just send them a catalog of what I have. So when they're running a story on somebody, they have a new outlet for new pictures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
so to me, that's going to keep me busy and maybe rekindle me getting back into it a little more, or potentially open doors again.
Yeah.
Where an artist sees that you shot, like, perfect example would be System of a Down. I did a lot of stuff with them, and it's all slides. And they didn't see very much of it.
Right.
Their management got a little bit, but I was just shooting show after show after show, and you start building packages of slides and boxes, and then you're on to the next show. You kind of forget. That's what
Yeah.
happened when I was doing it early days, is I was so hungry I'd request everything. And then you're spending money on the films, you just you look at it, you put it back in a box, and you're off to the next show. So by the time you get a week or two off, you're sitting on 12 boxes, and I didn't want to go print them because they're expensive. I was running pretty minimal. So it'll be a neat, refreshing thing to see a lot of work that I've never even actually printed.
It could
That's- yeah,
go
that's
into a
awesome.
book. Do you think?
I
Or you want to just source them out independently as needed?
think a book would be cool just because I'd love to see my stuff in a book, but there's no. If you go to Barnes & Noble and you check out their cutout book section, it's all music books for $5.95 that were $49.95. Nobody buys anything anymore. Like
Yeah,
that.
because it's all
Print.
digital now.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
tough.
Yeah, I guess.
So I'd rather just have like an online catalog for magazines and publications and people that want to purchase. I could. The one thing I tell kids not to do, don't bootleg, because you bootleg, you're going to get blacklisted real quick and you're not going to have a career. If you think
Yeah.
you're going to make a shirt of, say you shot a cool shot of Bring Me the Horizon,
Hmm.
and you make 100 of them and you don't think you're hurting anything, and that anybody gets wind of that shit, they're really going to think you're going to potentially do more and more and more, and you're going to be the guy they don't want to deal with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. So is there anything you want to promote before we take off here, Jeff?
Not really. I'd like to promote to the kids that like music, actually, just go enjoy your concerts and try to put your phone down a little more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get taking a picture because it is cool to have it, but try to cherish the experience that you're going to carry in your head and the emotions. And I think you're going to get a lot, especially if you're up in the front. I got a feeling if you're going to try and make eye contact with your favorite guitar player and stuff, and you're not holding your phone up, you're going to be surprised nowadays how much more they're going to come to your side of the stage to play to that
Yeah.
than to play to 5 friends over 5 feet that are all holding their arms up at you. And I hate to be redundant about it. It's just frustrating as a concert photographer. I've seen that transition. And now it's become to the point where I'm wondering if anybody remembers what they just saw.
Mm.
Like-
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna sit here and continue to harp on people with their phones up in the air. Like, we get it. Maybe the band can even have a hand
And
in
you
it.
know what? Buy product from your bands.
That's the next thing I was
Not-
going to segue to.
I would say, as cool as vinyl records are right now, buy them from the artist when they're on the road, because it's going in their pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're buying it at the record store right now, the music industry finally found a way, after many years of not being able to make money, that they are raping you for $30-something for a recording they already paid for 20 years ago, and it's reissued on a colored vinyl.
Mm.
So they finally found something to market. So if you want to buy that stuff, I love records, but I try my desperate way to buy them when they're on the road, because it's paying for their gas.
Amen.
They're actually seeing more than $1.25 from a $30 record.
Right. Yeah. That
And,
makes
and
sense.
sadly, the venues are getting a chunk out of it. All that stuff all trickles down. So I would rather go into like a local place like the Intersection or Pyramid Scheme or Tip Top and see that band. And you might not, and you can't buy it when they're playing because they're the ones selling it to you.
Right.
It's a different fan approach.
Yeah.
It's a good way to meet your fans. It's a good way to meet the band that you like, and they'll respect you right away.
Yeah.
You buy something from them,
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, this guy actually really likes us.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us one more time while we're waiting for Nick to get back. We got the show coming up.
Yep.
And but you said something. I guess I was curious before we wrap this up. You said so 7 to 9. Is that like a daily thing, or are you just gonna have a one time where you like they meet you, the photographer, or what is that? I guess I want to be clear on that before we take off.
7 to 9 on March 8th.
Okay, so the first day, the opening day of it.
I will be there on that date.
Okay, awesome.
Dew Gallery has a little shop within that building that's right off the first door when you come in that connects to the whole floor.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I just went to a wedding there, and I see there were. I don't think it was open at the time, but it was like opening because it was like in the summer or spring or something. So I seen something coming in there, like an art gallery type thing.
It's a cool building. He's trying to do that with a lot of different, creative art in Muskegon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just go out and support your local music scene. I know it's a redundant statement from people, but it helps the bands that want to keep playing.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, it was cool seeing you at If He Dies, He Dies, because I know you shot them quite a few years ago, and then you came back out after the return, so that was
I always had
awesome.
fun taking pictures of them boys.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that they don't remember many photo shoots.
Yeah. Well, with those guys, I go way back. They're a constant theme on the show because used to play so many hall shows with those guys right when they were coming up, basement shows with our friend Chantel, who's holding a big festival, that Heart on Your Sleeve Fest that's coming up here in like a couple weeks.
I am
February
shooting
10th.
that for her.
Are you?
Yep.
All right, that's cool. I'll be there too. We're going to have a Metal Maniacs booth there, and we're going to have some merchandise, and we're going to be doing actually on the fly podcast there. So I have to stop by and chat with us when you're not busy or whatever. And
it was awesome to see at that If He Dies show how many people turned out.
Yeah.
I was pretty shocked that I think they were too. Kind of like blown away that they still had it.
Yeah.
Still had a big turnout. You don't see that much at local metal shows like that.
Right. And they performed really well too, so I was really proud
of those guys. That's the best I've ever seen them play.
Yeah. I think sobriety's helped them as well. You know, that's always going to make you play a little bit better.
I definitely had some more crazier fun shows back in the day. But that was beyond tight.
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away by the sound, everything.
Yeah, it was really good. So
shout out to Addison for pulling that off.
Yeah,
that night. Great audio.
Yeah, his audio killed it when I was putting the video together for that. It was really good. But Addison knows what he's doing too. A good friend of the show and good friend all around. So, what about any shows? You just going to shoot that Heart on Your Sleeve Fest? Is that kind of what's next for you?
I'm thinking about approaching a festival this summer. I was looking at Sonic Temple.
Okay.
Just because it seems like you can get so many bands in one weekend.
Yeah.
But
he'll be there.
I'm 54, man. It's hard to go through 4 days at a festival.
Yeah, I get that.
Feel like cattle getting hauled around.
Well, now that's Nick's back, we can wrap up the show. Thanks a lot for coming on the show, Jeff.
Thanks for having me,
man. Hell yeah. So we'll get this out before this will come out definitely before the show to kind of help promote it a little bit, and we'll be seeing you at Heart on Your Sleeve Fest. Like I said, stop by and talk to us at the booth, and we'll chat with you a little bit. We'll be doing a on the fly podcast there. We'll have a little table and shit set up. So
I'm hoping a lot of people turn out for that.
Well, it's all sold out now. There's 2 tickets left yesterday, and that was it. And I got 2 that we're doing a giveaway, but we haven't really announced that quite yet because we're going to put out a little video for that, and we'll have 2 VIP tickets we're giving away. So you're hearing it here.
See what's up with them boys after this show and see if they continue the roll.
Yep. So, all right, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for checking out the show. Keep it metal. Peace.
Peace out.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for checking out the episode. Be sure to hit that like button and give us a share.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed our podcast today, please give it a rating on your streaming service to help us gain some exposure.
And if you really enjoyed the show, please give us a follow or hit that subscribe button and come hang out with us every week. And remember, keep it metal.